While I was out of town, my parents went behind my back and sold my car to bail out my reckless brother. So I did what I had to. I hunted it down, bought it back with my own money, and cut them off completely. My mom cried when I told her, saying they planned to repay me. Yeah, sure. But let me tell you what happened next, because I didn't find out right away. It hit me the moment I got back from a work trip. I stepped out of the cab, bone-tired but relieved to be home. The breeze that night was crisp, almost cleansing after such a long stretch of travel, and for a second, I let myself breathe. Then I noticed it. My usual parking spot? It wasn't just empty. It was occupied. Sitting there in place of my car was some beat-up old sedan, dented and missing a hubcap. That's when my stomach just dropped. I froze. My breathing slowed down, and my body locked up as I stared at that spot like it might somehow explain itself. Maybe I had parked somewhere else before the trip? But no, I never did that. Almost on autopilot, I reached into my coat pocket and felt around for my keys. The metal was cold in my hand, solid, familiar. My keys were still with me. My car, my rules. That's how it was supposed to be. But a chill crawled down my back. I clenched the keys tighter, gripping them so hard the edges started digging into my skin. My pulse thundered in my ears as I marched inside. I remembered the day I bought that car like it was yesterday. All those nights hunched over my desk, crunching numbers, cutting every little expense I could just to scrape together the down payment. I'd taken extra shifts, skipped out on vacations, turned down nights out with friends, just to make it happen. And when I finally signed the paperwork at the dealership, my hands literally shaking from how proud I was, it felt like a milestone. It wasn't just a car. It was something bigger. It was proof I could stand on my own 2 feet. That I didn't need help. That I was building something myself. And now it was gone. I stepped into the dining room and locked eyes with my mom. My voice came out sharper than I meant. Mom, where's my car? She and Dad were already sitting there like they'd been waiting for this exact moment. Like they knew this confrontation was coming. Dad cleared his throat. Sweetheart, we had to sell it. Ice flooded my chest. I couldn't even process it at first. You what? I asked, my voice rising. Your brother needed help. Mom jumped in quickly, almost sounding sorry. Almost. He's been having a hard time. He really needed the money. And just like that, the burn hit, deep and hot, right under my ribs. Of course, my brother. The family's little golden boy. The one they always bent over backwards for. The guy who dropped out of school, couldn't hold down a job, and somehow managed to stay out of trouble's way because someone else was always cleaning up after him. And once again, they expected me to pay for it. I dug my nails into my palm, the keys still clutched in my hand like a lifeline. Part of me wanted to launch them across the room. Instead, I let out a dry laugh. You sold my car? The one I bought with my own paycheck. Without even so much as asking? Dad just sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. Sweetheart, you've got a great job. You can always get another one. But your brother. And besides, Mom interrupted, sounding defensive now, you weren't even using it while you were gone. I stared at her, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. Come again. It was just sitting there, she said, fidgeting under my glare. And your brother's been really struggling. We figured you'd understand. That did it. Rage crept up my spine, hot and sharp. My fists clenched. My nails dug in, sharp enough to leave marks. I inhaled slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. Where's the money? Mom hesitated. We already gave it to him. Of course they did. I could already guess where it went, some ridiculous get-rich-quick scheme or another overpriced gadget he swore was crucial for his career. My brother never changed because he never had to. Someone was always stepping in to fix things for him. I looked down at the keys in my hand. Just minutes ago, they meant everything. They were a symbol of my freedom, my discipline. Now they were just a bunch of cold, useless metal. I let them fall from my fingers, and they hit the floor with a sharp, hollow clink. They thought they'd taken something from me. that I'd just accept it like I always did. Smile, nod, and carry on. Not this time. I wasn't going to waste breath arguing. They didn't deserve that much. I had something better in mind. Because come morning, their world was going to shift, and they had no idea what was coming. I barely slept that night. Anger churned in my gut. Disappointment gnawed at me. And betrayal, that one stung the deepest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mom's defensive look, Dad's sigh like he was the victim, and the way they tried to rationalize stealing from me like it was no big deal. They expected me to move on. Pretend it never happened. They didn't know who they were messing with. By the time the sun started creeping in through the blinds, I had a plan brewing. I climbed out of bed, joints stiff from the tension, and made my way to the desk. Flipping open my laptop, I started a fresh document. It was time to lay out a plan, step by step. Everything I needed to do. 1. Track down my car. If it was at a dealership, I had a shot at buying it back. If it went to a private buyer, I'd have to follow that trail. And if the money was already blown, then I'd make damn sure they never touched another cent of mine again. 2. Secure my accounts. Change every password. Lock down my savings. Remove any access my parents might still have. 3. Confront my brother. He was the real problem here. And he was about to learn what consequences actually looked like. Once the list was finished, I exhaled. This wasn't about a car anymore. This was about standing up and drawing a line. About proving I wasn't going to be their backup plan or emotional crutch ever again. They crossed a line. Now I was going to take something back. Later that morning, I sat in a quiet booth at my go-to coffee spot, sipping a strong espresso and scrolling through my phone. First order of business, the DMV. I gave them a call and played it casual, acting like I was just checking up on a recently sold vehicle. I rattled off the VIN number, something I knew by heart. The clerk on the other end sounded polite, but firm. Sorry, sir. We can't release that information unless you're the registered owner. Fine. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. The DMV clerk didn't tell me anything, but I had a backup plan. I logged into my old car insurance portal, hoping maybe something there could give me a lead. Sure enough, right there in plain sight was a cancellation notice. My insurance had been dropped just 2 days ago and listed under the transfer, Harrison Auto Sales, a local used car lot. Bingo. The dealership was only about 20 minutes away. I borrowed a car from one of the few friends I could still count on, someone who knew the full story and didn't ask questions. Before long, I was pulling into the lot. It wasn't anything fancy. Just rows of average sedans and SUVs lined up like ducks in a row. A couple overpriced sports cars thrown in for good measure. In the center stood a small glass office, basic, functional. I stepped inside, glancing around until I spotted a middle-aged guy who looked like he'd been working there since the place opened. His name tag said Dennis. He greeted me with a nod that said he'd rather be anywhere else. Morning. Looking for something specific? Yeah, I said, already scrolling through my phone. I held it up. This. Black 2018 Toyota Camry. Pretty sure you guys picked it up recently. Dennis narrowed his eyes and leaned in, scratching at his chin like he was digging through his mental filing cabinet. Camry, huh? Hang on, let me check. He tapped at his keyboard for a few seconds, then gave a slow nod. Yep. Came in 2 days ago. And? Already sold. My stomach twisted into a knot. Sold? Yeah. Guy paid cash. Showed up yesterday and took it off the lot. I swallowed hard. Do you know who bought it? Dennis hesitated, then gave a practiced shake of his head. Sorry, man. We can't share customer information. I let out a slow breath, trying not to let the frustration show. Look, I said, softening my tone. That car was sold without my knowledge. I'm not here to cause any trouble. I just need to speak with the guy who bought it. That's all. Dennis stared at me for a second, then sighed. All right, he muttered, lowering his voice. I can't tell you anything, but let's just say I've got a coffee break coming up. if I leave this invoice sitting here while I step out. He didn't finish the sentence. Just turned and walked off toward the break room, leaving his screen wide open. I moved fast, leaned over the desk, and scanned the details. There it was, buyer's name, Logan Pierce. Address, 759, Riverside Drive. Gotcha. Riverside was a quiet, clean little neighborhood, not the kind of place you'd expect to find a desperate cash buyer. Which meant one of two things. Either Logan was in a rush and needed a ride cheap, or he was planning to flip it for profit. Either way, I needed a conversation. I parked a few houses down and made my way up to his driveway. And there it was, my Camry, sitting pretty under a tree like nothing ever happened. Looked just like I remembered. My hands clenched on their own. I rang the doorbell. After a few seconds, a tired-looking guy in his early 30s opened the door. Tall, rough beard, eyes like he hadn't slept properly in days. He studied me like he was trying to decide if I was a salesman or something worse. "Yeah," he asked. I kept calm. "You Logan Pierce?" "Who's asking?" "My name's Rachel. That car in your driveway? It was sold out from under me. I'm here to buy it back." Logan sighed and rubbed a hand down his face. "Look, man, I don't want any problems. I paid good money for that car. I'm not here to fight," I told him honestly. "I just want to fix this." He stared at me for a long second, then glanced toward the Camry. Finally, he stepped aside. "All right, come in." His place was modest, small living room, worn couch, coffee table covered in old receipts, and a TV buzzing quietly in the background. The smell of stale coffee and cigarettes lingered in the air. He motioned to the couch. "Have a seat." I stayed standing. "I get that this situation sucks. And I'm not blaming you. But I need to ask, how much did you pay?" Logan scratched the back of his neck, then muttered, $7,000. Cash. 7 grand. My heart sank. That car was worth triple that. And my parents just handed it off like it was nothing. All that work, all those hours, undersold to cover my brother's mess again. I gritted my teeth. Did the seller mention why he was offloading it? He shrugged. Said his kid was in trouble. Needed the money quick. I didn't push. Figures. They couldn't even be bothered to ask for a fair price. Just another slap in the face. Still, I knew Logan wasn't the enemy. He just got a good deal. So I changed gears. "Listen," I said, pulling out my phone. "You bought it for 8, right?" He nodded. "Yeah, I'll give you 10. That got his attention. He raised an eyebrow. 10? In cash? Cash, I confirmed. He paused, leaned forward a little. 15. I actually laughed, though there wasn't anything funny about it. Are you serious? I mean, yeah, I paid 7. But I also shelled out for registration, insurance, oil change. Plus, I kinda like it. He crossed his arms. 15. I wanted to punch a wall. Paying twice the value just to undo someone else's mistake? Unreal. But I wasn't walking away without that car. Fine, I said, jaw tight. 15. I drove off with my Camry. And a fire in my chest. This wasn't just about a vehicle anymore. It was about making sure no one ever did this to me again. Especially not them. As I headed back toward my parents' house, my mind was racing. I had a lot of options. And this time, I wasn't going to be the doormat. My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "Mom, sweetheart, we know you were upset last night. Come home for dinner? Let's talk." I stared at the screen, gripping the wheel tighter. Talk? That's rich. They hadn't even apologized. They just expected me to let it go. Business as usual. Not happening. Me, sure. See you tonight. When I pulled into the driveway later that evening, my usual spot was wide open. The junky sedan was gone. I smiled to myself. They probably figured I'd walked away from the whole thing. That I wouldn't come back. Big mistake. I stepped inside. Everyone was already gathered around the table, Mom, Dad, and my brother. The smell of roasted chicken and garlic mashed potatoes filled the house. Classic. Mom's go-to peace offering. "Sweetheart," she said, getting up to hug me like nothing had happened. "I'm so glad you came." I didn't hug her back. Instead, I pulled out my phone, set it on the table, and flipped the screen toward them. Dad narrowed his eyes. "What's this?" I tapped play. From the phone came the scratchy but clear voice of Dennis. "Yeah, came in 2 days ago." "Sold already." "Sold," the recording echoed. "Yep. Guy came in yesterday. Paid cash." "Who?" "Sorry, we don't give out customer information." Mom's smile faded, like a candle snuffed out. Dad's face drained of color. They knew exactly what was coming. "I went to the dealership," I said, my voice calm but colder than ice. "I tracked down who bought it." I looked each of them in the eye. "Paid 18 grand to get my car back. The one you sold behind my back without so much as a phone call." The room went dead quiet. "You did what?" my brother finally blurted out, his fork slipping from his fingers and clattering against the plate. "I got my car back," I repeated evenly. "And now we're going to talk about how you're going to repay every last cent." Dad shook his head slowly. "Sweetheart, that's not how family works. Sometimes we make sacrifices for each other." I slammed my palm against the table so hard the dishes rattled. "Sacrifices?" I snapped. "You want to talk about sacrifices?" I pointed straight at my brother, who was now trying to look anywhere but at me. "When has he ever sacrificed anything for me?" "Huh." Mom opened her mouth, but I cut her off before she could deliver one of her usual guilt-laced lines. "You know what? Forget the money," I said, straightening up. "I don't even care about it anymore." I paused, letting the weight of my next words settle over them. "What I care about is this. You're never getting another cent from me. Not now. Not ever." Dad narrowed his eyes, his tone turning sharp. "Don't be ridiculous." I smiled. "Already done." I moved all my money, froze the shared account, changed my direct deposit. I leaned in slightly, looking them both dead in the eye. "From now on, you're on your own." Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "But we're family." "Exactly," I said, holding her gaze. "And family doesn't steal from each other." For the first time in my life, I saw something I never thought I'd witness from them: panic. Dad looked like he was about to erupt, but didn't have the words. Mom glanced at my brother, hoping for backup. But he just leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "So what?" he muttered. "You think you're better than us now?" I let out a dry laugh. "No. I just think I'm done with all this." I grabbed my phone, stood up, and headed for the door. My hand was already on the handle when I stopped and turned back. "Oh, and one more thing," I added with a smirk. "Since you're all so good at selling stuff that doesn't belong to you, let's see how you like it when someone does it to you." My brother's face scrunched in confusion. "What the hell does that mean?" I just winked and walked out. They'd figure it out soon enough. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. Like a weight had been peeled off my chest. For once, I wasn't drowning in guilt or obligation. The look on their faces when I said they were officially cut off? That was a moment I'd remember forever. But I wasn't finished. They stole from me, and I took back what was mine. Now it was time to make sure it never happened again. For my entire life, I had been the responsible one. The fallback. The emergency wallet. The safety net. But what happens when the one they rely on finally walks away? They start to sink. And I was going to make sure they felt every inch of the fall. First thing I did that morning was pull up my financial accounts again. I'd already locked down my savings and blocked my parents from everything they had access to, but there was one more string left dangling. My brother. I searched his name in my banking app and, sure enough, there it was, an automatic monthly transfer of $400. I froze. When had I agreed to that? Oh, right. I hadn't. Years back, my mom asked me for a little help while he was getting back on his feet. I agreed to send one payment. Just one, but somewhere along the way, she'd snuck in a recurring transfer behind my back. Unbelievable. I canceled it immediately. Then, for good measure, I shot my brother a text. Me, hey, just a heads up, you're not getting another dime from me. Ever. He responded fast. Him. What are you talking about? Me, check your bank account. It took maybe 2 minutes. Him. Did you cancel my money? Me, my money. And yeah, consider it your first real lesson in adulthood. Him. You can't just do that. Me, I literally just did. Him. Mom and Dad said you wouldn't be this selfish. That one made me laugh out loud. Me, selfish? You're talking to the person who's been covering your messes for years. I didn't even bother replying after that. Let him throw a tantrum into the void. But it got me thinking, if they were desperate enough to sell my car behind my back, what else had they been doing? I ran a full credit report. And that's when I saw it. A hard inquiry on my credit. My heart pounded as I clicked the details. Someone had tried to open a loan in my name. The anger built slow and deep, rising from the pit of my stomach. I scrolled through the report. Loan applicant. My father. Loan status. Denied. Reason. Insufficient income and lack of authorization from primary account holder. My jaw clenched so hard it ached. They had tried to steal from me again. This time, using my identity, I grabbed my phone and called the bank. Hi, I need to place a fraud alert on all my accounts. I believe my identity has been compromised. The rep was calm, efficient, helpful. Within minutes, I'd locked every account down, changed all my security settings, and flagged the incident as attempted fraud. Then I opened the family group chat for the very last time. Me, just pulled my credit report. You really tried to take out a loan in my name? Are you out of your minds? Mom, sweetheart, we were going to pay it back. Dad, don't overreact. It's just paperwork. We needed a little short-term help. Me, help? You mean identity theft? Mom, that's not what this is. You're blowing it out of proportion. I stared at the screen, stunned. No apology. No guilt. Just excuses. They didn't even think they'd done anything wrong. I took a breath and typed one final message. Me, thanks for confirming everything I needed to know. You'll never get another cent from me. Ever again. Blocked. All of them. Now that the financial lifeline was gone, I wanted to make sure they felt the impact. And I knew exactly how to hit them where it hurt. I pulled up an email draft and found the contact info I'd saved months ago for their landlord. Because here's the thing about mooching off your kid for over a decade. When that kid walks away, everything starts to crumble. They'd been renting the same house for over 10 years, always just barely making rent, always begging for extensions. But I'd overheard something recently. Dad grumbling about how the landlord was getting nosy, asking too many questions about late payments. So I wrote a polite, professional message. Subject: urgent information regarding tenant at parent's address. Dear Mr. Landlord, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to notify you that, as of today, I am no longer financially supporting my parents, Mom's name, and Dad's name, who currently rent from you at address. I understand they may have previously used my financial standing to reassure you about their ability to keep up with rent payments. I need to make it very clear they no longer have access to my income, accounts, or credit in any form. If they attempt to use my name, savings, or creditworthiness to guarantee future payments, consider this written notice that they are doing so without my knowledge or consent. Best regards, Rachel. I hit send and leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. It was only a matter of time before everything began to unravel. 3 days later, the first crack appeared. A text from my cousin lit up my screen. Cousin, yo. Uncle is losing it. Did you really cut them off? Me, yep. Cousin, he's talking about eviction. Says the landlord suddenly stopped working with them. I smirked as I typed. Me, not my problem. Cousin, damn. You really did it. I really did. And the best part? I wasn't even close to done. It took about 2 weeks for everything to truly fall apart. 3 weeks since I'd blocked my parents. 3 weeks since I shut off the money flow to my brother. 3 weeks since I sent that little email. Now, they were finally sinking. At first, there was just silence. No angry calls. No emotional blackmail. No attempts to guilt me back in. But then the messages started rolling in from other people. Cousin, bro, your mom's calling everyone in tears. Says they're about to lose the house. Old family friend, hey, I don't know what happened, but your dad's been asking around for cash. He's telling people you abandoned them. Just figured I'd give you a heads up. Former neighbor, not sure if you care, but I saw a moving truck at your parents' place today. Looked like they were being forced out. I read every message with quiet, steady satisfaction. Actions have consequences. One night, I got a text from an unfamiliar number. Unknown. You think you're so damn clever, don't you? I didn't even need to guess. Me, new number, who dis? Him. Don't screw with me. You ruined my life. I actually laughed. Ruined his life? He'd been doing that all by himself for years. Me, what happened? Did mommy and daddy finally tell you to get a job? Him. You don't get it. They had to leave because of you. They're crashing with some cousin I've never met. And I've got nowhere to go. And there it was. For the first time in his life, there was no soft landing. No parental buffer. No older sibling quietly covering his rent in the background. Him. You're so selfish. You could have helped. Me, I did help. For years. And you all spit in my face. Him. Forget you. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I'd already won. A few days later, I got an incoming call from yet another unknown number. I let it ring. Then came the email. Subject, please, we need to talk. I hesitated. Then opened it. Mom and Dad. Sweetheart, we don't know what else to do. We lost the house. Your brother's struggling. We're staying with extended family, but it's temporary. We made a mistake. Maybe we shouldn't have sold your car. Maybe we shouldn't have tried to take out that loan. But we're family. Can't we just start over? Please. We need your help. Love, Mom and Dad. I sat there staring at the screen. Now they were sorry. Not when they sold the car I worked years to afford. Not when they tried to take out a loan using my identity. Not when they called me selfish for refusing to keep carrying their baggage. No. They only felt bad now when it was already too late. I cracked my knuckles, took a deep breath, and began typing. Subject. My final answer. Mom and Dad. You're right, we were family. But real family doesn't lie. Real family doesn't steal. They don't betray someone who's bent over backwards to support them. You didn't care when you took something that mattered to me. You didn't care when I begged for a little respect. So now? I don't care what happens to you. This is the last time you'll ever hear from me. Don't call. Don't text. Don't email. Don't send anyone else in your place. I'm done. Goodbye. I hit send. Then blocked the email address. And, just like that, I was free. Update. 1 year later. It's been 12 months since I walked away. And you know what? It's been the most peaceful, fulfilling, drama-free year of my life. No more guilt-tripping voicemails. No more late-night phone calls begging for a little help. No more watching everything I built get drained by people who couldn't even say thank you. As for them, my parents are still struggling. Last I heard, they overstayed their welcome with relatives and had to downsize into a cramped rental. My brother finally got a job. Turns out, working for a living is a lot harder than sponging off everyone around you. And me? I'm thriving. I used the money I saved to buy a new car, one that no one can touch but me. I took trips. Focused on my career. Built relationships with people who actually appreciate me. And not once, not for 1 second, did I regret my decision. Because at the end of the day, cutting them off wasn't about getting revenge. It was about taking my life back. And I'll never let anyone take it from me again.